guys are joining in, and we're going to give you guys an opportunity to win a prize, possibly prizes, for watching this training in its entirety. So stay tuned, because once we're done, we're going to post up the criteria for that. For everyone who is here, I know there are some new faces. My name is Melissa Divine, Director for Team Divine All-Stars. I'm so thankful to have you guys here. I know a lot of you guys drove a really long way to be here. Jessica drove like over an hour. So kudos to you for that. I learned from Becca that in order to go up, you have to show up. So you guys being here for your business, for your family, really does mean a lot. And for those in the virtual world as well, for setting apart these 2 to 3 hours to invest in yourself and in your family. So without further ado, for those of you who do not know, we have the beautiful superstar director Becca Levie and her husband, Mr. Terry Levie. They are very, very special people to me. When I first joined Sensi, I had no clue what I was doing. When I tell you, like, zero clue, I had no clue what I was doing. But I love Sensi, as all of you guys do, right? It's easy to fall in love with the products. You just kind of figure out along the way, right? Just share it with everyone and you learn as you go. So don't have so much pressure on yourself. If you're new, feeling like you have to know everything, you don't have to know everything. Just be passionate about your product and continue to share the product and the opportunity. So I kept doing that. And within a few months, I get this call from, there's a message that says, Becca Levie. I'm like, that's the lady. She's the superstar director. Her name is on the workstation. And I'm like freaking out. I'm like, oh my God, it's like the Pope is calling me, you know? And I call her back and I'm just like, oh my God, like, I was just so elated and I was so happy. And ever since that day, she has poured so much into not just my life, into my family's life, but into this team, you know? So that's why I was really, like, I was trying to push this so hard, because I'm like, oh my God, if you guys don't know who she is, trust me, just come. You're gonna love her. You're gonna benefit so much from this training. She has so much knowledge. They both have so much knowledge. She is a keynote speaker, which you guys already got a little, you know, tip on that. We're so excited about what's coming up next weekend. She's an author, she's a mother, and she is an amazing mentor. And not only that, she is one of the top earners within Sensi. So we are very fortunate that this is the kind of leadership that we have before us. So soak it all up, like soak today up, soak up the group Make It Happen page, soak everything that you can, because they're so resourceful and your business can take it to the next level. And I know that that's what today is going to do for you guys. So make sure that if you guys are watching, tag your teams like right now. I don't care if you have 1 person, 5 person, 20 people, start tagging them right now so they can watch this video. And without further ado, I'm going to introduce the beautiful Becca.
All right.
Just in time.
Boy, I'm excited to meet you. So, before we got started, I handed those lip balms, and then I showed you the little card or little bag with the You Matter thing. So, I just want to give you background on that. Almost 2 years ago, and later you'll find out why, but I have my heart's got a real soft spot for suicide awareness. And it's become an epidemic. Like over 3,000 people a day take their life. And I think if 3,000 people a day were losing their life from Ebola, like we would be talking about it. So, like I said, about 2 years ago, I was like, what can I do to make a difference? And I thought back to my difficult childhood and teenage years and thought, you know, it would be right when I was on the edge that somebody would say or do something kind to me. And that might be my ray of hope for a month or something like that. And so I started out with gift bags from the dollar store and the handwritten cards. And then we have a lip balm company, so it always had a lip balm in it. And I would just write out a really encouraging note and put in a couple pieces of candy. And then I would go out and give 10 to 20 of these bags away a day to strangers. And I had the most amazing year doing that. So I think I gave over like 1,200 bags away in that year. And I found out how much power each one of us have to save lives. And you know, there's nothing that makes you realize how much you matter when you let someone else know how much they matter. And just like with Cincy, the first 200 were really difficult, kind of, you know, because I had to walk up to a complete stranger and they didn't know if I was like a terrorist, if I was like, especially in the airport, like why is she giving me this package and I don't know who she is in this crowd. Or lots of times I thought I was selling something, but just like you saw in that card I gave you, the little, it had none of my information on it. This was not about branding me as a Cincy consultant. This was not about anything but sewing into someone's life and knowing that no matter what their reaction was, most of the time they were like, okay. And knowing that when they read that message and they saw that there was no way to get a hold of me, that maybe their faith in humanity was restored, that people do good just to do good, that there was no agenda. But at least once a week, like maybe as soon as I, the parking lot, I'd give it to someone, or when I first entered a store, and 15 or 20 minutes would go by and I'd get a tap on the shoulder, and this beautiful soul would be like in tears crying and say, can I hug you? And how did you know? How did you know you saved my life? So this was the thing that I didn't want anybody to know. I believe in the creator upstairs, and I didn't want the right hand to know what the left hand was doing. So about a year and a half into this, I'm a person who was asked this my whole entire life. Once I realized, like maybe 20, I should say my whole entire life, but about my 20s, what can I do right now? How can I serve? What's the next best thing I can do? And the answers always come. And at that point, the thought came that I needed to take the You Matter movement and take it public. So I did that. And we just, in August, got cleared for a 501c3 nonprofit. So that's the thing about this business model that we have, that you get to the point that you work hard, and then you get systems, and you hire a child or somebody like that who can kind of take over and then grow into their blossoms so you can go out and do the next phase of your life. So when you're thinking about your future, Cincy hopefully will always play a part, but it's also a vehicle to be able to do, because each of those bags cost me, maybe $1.50 at that time. Mm-hmm. And if you're giving 10 or 20 away a day, I mean, that's, over that time, that's $15,000 right there. That's just expendable income that can come. So I'm always thinking, think about the big picture. Always think about the big picture. And when you think about the big picture, then you will find it's so much more fun to do what you're doing now, because it is building for a greater future, for you to have that greater impact, whatever that looks like on your journey. Because there are specific things designed just for you to do to make a difference on this planet that no one else can do. And that takes money, and that takes funds, and that takes confidence, and that all the things that you learn in being in direct sales, plus the money to do it. So, most of you don't know my story, right? So I'm going to just let you get to know a little bit about me first. The first time I had my real big business venture, okay, and we've had many of them, but my first one was in the 3rd grade. Now, I was always in high waters. I'm all legs, didn't have much money, didn't come much from a home line that had anything, and so, I was just the dorky, awkward one with the thrift store misfit clothes. And maybe that's why I like Ross so much. But, every Friday, they had a candy sale at school. And I love candy. I'm always eating candy. In fact, someone said the other day, oh yeah, if Becca doesn't have chocolate on her, it's just because she hasn't had candy yet today. So it's all about the chocolate. So I'm watching these kids every Friday at the candy sale getting candy, and I can't have it. And I'm really like, thinking how this just can't be. So I decided that if I made my own money, then I could buy candy on Fridays. So I have this really powerful why. I wanted to buy candy on Fridays. So I looked around and thought, what can I offer? Oh, did I mention I'm like 7 years old in the 3rd grade? What can I offer, the people in my network here that will bring me some income so I can buy my candy? And I realized, because back then, and I'm 53 now, I was the only kid in my class, and I think the classes that surrounded me, because I was only 7, that had pierced ears. And my ears have been pierced just with a big darning needle at home. So I thought, this is a great business to go in. Nobody has their ears pierced, and I know how to do it, and it doesn't take any overhead. Oh my God. It was about as cheap as starting your own Cincy business, right? So I think, okay, what do I need? So I think, well, even at that age, I understood branding and packaging because I found a beautiful red velvet, heart-shaped candy box left over from Valentine's. And I grabbed some medical supplies like my darning needle. Of course, my earrings were orange thread, so I knew all you did was thread the needle and then tie it off, and that would keep the ears open. You just moved it every day, right? So I grab a few other things that I think are going to be handy. I'm super excited. I set my price point at $2 because that would buy me a lot of candy on Friday, right? Back then, can you imagine when, like, pomegranates for 10 cents? Okay. So I go to school and I start asking everybody, and I had these really pretty earrings that my grandma had given me, and I'd say, see these earrings? And they would say, yeah. And I'd say, aren't they beautiful? And they would say, yes. And I'd say, wouldn't you like to wear them? And they would say, yes. So I have 3 yeses already. I am on a roll. So they like them, and they would like to wear them, and that's why I say for $2 I can make that happen. Now at that point, sometimes when you ask for the money, the crowd dissipates. Took me about a week to find my first client. I did. She did not have her $2 on her, so we set an appointment for the next day.
That's right.
So the next day comes. She's got her $2. I've got my beautiful medical kit. We sit down somewhere on the recess, and I pull out my big needle and I grab her ear and I'm trying to push it. Nothing is happening. The harder I push still, her skin was not breaking. Oh my gosh. So I don't know how long I pushed on that poor girl's ear. And then we sat there and she was excited too, so we were both a little deflated. But where there is a will, there is a way.
Oh, gosh.
So I rummaged through my medical kit and I found a seam ripper.
Oh.
Ah.
Right? Like, I'm pretty sure they would not let me on the airplane with that right now. Now, if you think there are not angels watching out for you, I would think differently because I could not get the lid off. But I did not stop. So I went to the recess teacher on duty and I said, could you take the lid off of this? And with a little effort, he did. And I remember the look when he looked at the sharp instrument and he looked at this 7-year-old. And then he handed it to me. I'm stoked. So I run to go and find my client whose attention span has waned. She's on the merry-go-round, but I don't care where we do it. We're just going to get this done. So I jump on the merry-go-round. I go over, I grab her by the ear, about to make my first incision. And then all of a sudden I feel someone having me by the ear. And they drug me off to the principal's office. And they took away my medical kit.
Yeah.
They said I did not have proper licensing and education. But we know better, right? We think anything's possible. So I did not get candy that Friday. So, would you agree I had a big why? And I was determined, and there were these obstacles, and even with all of my big vision and effort, it still got shut down early. And that happens to us, like, it starts from the very beginning. So that's just kind of a fun part about my story. So another powerful, for me, part of my story, the story that turned me into a crap alchemist, and I'll talk about that in a minute, is I was born with 5 holes in my heart. And at that time, that was a big deal, and most infants didn't survive long enough to get to a surgery. I had to be 2 for my body to be able to handle the surgery. And from what I've been told, there was like several other infants in the hospital that didn't make it. So it's really a miracle that I was here. So I spent most of my first 2 years in the hospital. And they called me a blue baby, and not because I was sad, but because literally I wasn't getting enough oxygen, so my skin was blue. Had the surgery. From what I've been told, the doctor sent me home way early. I was too much energy for them to handle. But I went home to a mom who was addicted to drugs and alcohol, who never wanted children. They said that she would beat me over the head with a wooden spoon until I would quit crying. She just didn't know how to cope. And why did she not know how to cope? Well, her life was really crappy too. She, from what I've been told, her father was a criminal on the run. I never have heard anything about her mother. I don't think she knew her mother. And they were just like, hopping from city to city, and he died and left her alone on the streets as a teen. So the next part of the story, from my understanding, is that she a woman came up to her on the streets and said, hey honey, you look cold, you look hungry, you look tired, however that conversation went, and said, come home with me and I'll take care of you. When she got home, she said, I'll take care of you, but I need you to do me a few favors, and as a result, my mom became a prostitute, and hence the addictions that she did. So at some point, she met my father, she ran away with him, she didn't want to have children, she had me, I was more than she could handle. He was on the road all the time as a truck driver, so he didn't really know what was going on at home very much. And so life at home was unsavory characters, unwanted attention, lots of different abuses, as you can imagine, mostly sexual at that time. So then one day, my dad decides, we're in California by the way, he's going to join this church and move to Idaho, and he drags her there, and now she's not only not getting what she needs and what she's used to living with, but now she's in a small community, Christian community, and I know she did her best to fit in, because I remember one day the kitchen countertops all lined with these jars of red canned homemade tomato soup. They were really beautiful, but they were nasty. I mean, only in the last decade have I dared try tomato soup again. So I know she did her best with what she knew, and this is why knowledge is so important, because we can only do the best with what we know, and that's why judging other people is so not our job, because they are doing literally the best they can with what they know. Not judging yourself is important, because you are doing the best with what you know, and kudos that you came here to learn more so you can know more and you can do more and reach the limitless opportunities that are yours. Because this is how you start to make that transition, is because you come here and you hear other people's stories and you realize that you are not alone. That all of us walk through crappy times for a reason. So one day, she says to me, and I'm about 8, she says, and my sisters were 2 and 4, she said, let's get them ready and go 3 hours away to the zoo. Now, she didn't seem to pay much attention to us. This was a big deal that she wanted to take us to the zoo. And so we were excited. And we got in the car, and it was a long drive for little kids, and we got there, and then she said, how about we do something better than that? And I'm thinking, what could be better than time with you at the zoo? And she says, how about an airplane ride? So that sounded pretty cool. So we get on an airplane, and a woman meets us, and later on I would learn that that was the same woman who had taken her in off the streets. So we get off the plane, we spend the night, they go out for the night, we're left alone for the night, me with my 2 little sisters. The next day, they take us on another seemingly long car ride, and they stop the car, and it's a very impoverished community. You can tell that by the structures aren't like structures like we know, and there was some housing that wasn't too terrific. And she stopped the car, and as she ushered me out and my 2 little sisters, she pointed to a little old lady with puppies, and she said, play with the puppies, and I will be back in a few hours. And that is the last words I ever heard my mother speak. So, I don't really know how long we were there. That's a time when I remember the day she dropped us off, and I remember the day that we were found. The day that we were found, I remember that this nice car was driving around, and everybody was like, who are those people, and why are they doing in our community? And all of a sudden, this man was walking toward me, and he was calling me by name, and he was like, I don't like to be called Becky, but this is what I was called back then. Becky? And I looked at him, and then I thought, wait, who are you, and how do you know my name? And at that moment, the best way I can describe what happened to me was when you see somebody's memory come back, and you see like they go, whoa, 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 and then all of a sudden they remember. It's like, I felt like this huge flood of emotions just flooded my whole body with this horrible grief. And I just started crying, I want my mom, I want my mom, I want my mom. I remember him saying to me, I'm taking you to her, calm down, child, And for years, I really believed that he never did. I would find out like 25 years later that actually how they found us, they said we were wearing only our underwear, that we were malnutritioned, skin and bones, which is why I don't like people to eat off my plate, and I used to get real anxiety attacks. And it was a little dramatic.
Yeah, it wasn't.
And if I offer you food, it's a real love token. That's what I'm saying. I'm like, here, have some of this. and covered with lice. And but they said that the only way they found us was because my mother had called and said, hey, if you promise not to give them back to their dad, then I'll go with you and show you where I left them. So I guess what happened was that when they picked us up, there was a truck with a camper shell, and you know how you have the window in between? That they said, we put us in there. My mother never turned around and looked once. And that we could see her through the window, and we were crying. And so I guess my mind and heart just couldn't handle to be rejected like that twice again. So technically I did see her again, but I think that was hard because I also blocked that. So this is where me and my husband always have a little bit of interesting conflict. Because after we were found, you would think, oh, how could things get worse than that, right? But for me, based on what I'd been through, and then my dad remarrying, I don't know if it's fourth or fifth time for sure. They don't like to talk about their mistakes very much. And but she came from a family who was incredibly abusive and emotionally abusive. And all of her siblings were really creative in how they chose to punish you physically, but the emotional abuse was just, I was so broken. I was so broken. I think I forget sometimes because I used to not be able to go to any function like this or anywhere and not eventually have to excuse myself crying. Even though I was a 20-year-old manager, because there was a lot of strengths that I had, but the internal work was so broken and so weak. I remember I was managing a women's clothing store, and everybody just thought I was young, beautiful, and just had everything under control. But then I'd go home at night and go to this little water closet, and all I had was a toilet in it, and I'd crawl behind it, turn out the lights in the fetal position. I'm pretty tall, and just sob all night, pull myself together, and go out there. So it took me a lot of years to overcome a lot of the baggage that I have. So, but here's the really cool thing about when you have a lot of stuff go wrong, and you're that broken, that you're just that broken, and you're self-medicating in different ways, is that if you feel that calling, which I believe we all do, that surely we were made for more than this. Surely there's something magnificent that we're supposed to contribute. We have two things we can do. We can tell ourselves that, who are we to think that way, or, you know, I just should be happy with what I have and settle, or whatever we do, or we self-medicate it with alcohol or drugs or food so that we deny the calling to how we are really supposed to show up. But that calling for me was pretty strong. In fact, I was 13 when I just couldn't take how life had progressed. And I wanted to be loved, and I wanted to make people happy. And I tried and I tried. And I remember it was to the point that, and that kind of emotional abuse that my stepmom, I remember one time I had the flu, and this was right before, this was actually the night that I decided that I couldn't do planet Earth anymore. And she was telling my dad, she's not really sick. She's just evil. That's just the devil. That's just her devil attitude coming out of her. She's not really sick. But I heard all these things, and I believe that. I believe that even my own body betrayed me. And I finally said, if you're up there, you're cruel. And why would you put me here if I'm going to cause so many other people pain and be in so much pain and have no way to change? I couldn't figure it out. Because sometimes we're hearing what I'm going to tell you today, that we can change everything, but there's times in our lives when it really doesn't look like we can. And that's just natural. But there is always a way out, and that way out is a way up.
Mm-hmm. Amen.
So that's when I decided that I didn't want to be on the planet anymore. And I was thinking, how can I take my life? So I went to school, and we were back in California, and it was a middle school with a high school, and it was big like a college campus. And so like it could take you 15 minutes to get from one class to the next class. And so there's always, you know, in the morning, there were so many buses coming in, bringing in all of these students. And one day as I got off my bus, another bus was coming in, and the bus driver had to slow down. He wasn't paying attention. He had turned behind him to yell at some rowdy kids. And I thought, how easy is this? He's not paying attention. All I have to do is step in front of that bus, and it's all over. And I was actually really looking forward to that moment. That's why I have such an affinity to people who think that taking their life is the only way out, because I've been there. where I tried every other resource that I knew, and I just couldn't live with the pain any longer. So as I went to do that, some big jock grabbed me, pulled me back, and said, "What are you trying to do, kill yourself?" And in that deflated moment of not succeeding, I said yes. And I was taken to the school counselor. And this is where I can begin to see some of those bits of knowledge that I would need to go out and up in my life and be who I came here to be. And so my first experience with a counselor, and you know, school counselors, they get a lot of like non-crises in there, right? They do get a little drama. They get a lot of true stuff too, but I remember her going, "So what? So, you know, that you think that this is what you need to do." I told her my story, you know, she stopped and she said, "Okay, you're right. It's not your average everyday story." So she asked me this question. She said, "Do you believe in the beauty of your dreams? Or do you have a dream?" And I said, "What kind of counselor are you? Does it sound like I have any dreams?" Well, there was that one time in the 3rd grade that, you know, that goes on. And I said, "No." She goes, well, she quoted Eleanor Roosevelt, who said, "The future belongs to those who believe in the beauty of their dreams." So I left there thinking that she just did not have a clue, and I didn't know what I was going to do from there. Also about that time, I was dragged to a church devotional. And I was sitting on the back row, and I was thinking, I can't even kill myself. Like, I can't even, you know, what do I do now? And I certainly don't want to be here, and I certainly don't want to be talking about somebody up there. So I'm just back there, just totally victim mode, and I don't know. I can't remember what the woman was saying. I just remember all of a sudden I was perking up, and then I was sitting up straight. Then I was leaning forward, and then I was smiling, and then I was laughing. And then I just had this real epiphany that I didn't know how, and I didn't know when, but someday I was going to do for others what she just managed to do for me in that moment. And that's what I get to do now, right? But it's been this long journey, because I always say, without the story, there's no glory. There has to be a struggle. And if you realize that the struggle is your gift, then you kind of almost get excited about it instead of drowned by it. So, this happens to me in my life where I just go blank.
Me too.
And I think it's because I could stand here for 2 weeks and tell you all the places and all the businesses and all the things that we have done. All the things that got me to the point that I am the woman that you see here today. Who can get up here without spending, you know, a half hour in the bathroom before, and who's not shaking with a little mini seizure, which has happened to me a lot, and I spend the rest of my time talking to you like this because I can't turn my neck because I was so stressed, right? But the only way through is to do stuff. And that's what life is. So if every day you keep asking questions like, what can I do right now to change everything? What can I do right now? Because if you think about, we're so busy thinking so much about the future and what this person's doing and that person's doing their business and, oh, what I should be doing here. I have a full-time job, and then I have kids, and then I have PTA, and then I have church, and then I have bills, and I don't know how I'm going to pay them, and you have so much to think about. But if you will just focus in and say, what can I do right now? The answer will come, and it will lead you to your next perfect best step. And then if you ask again, it'll take you to your next perfect next step. And one day, all of those next steps brought you to a future where hopefully, wherever you're called, you're sitting up here with the kind of financial means and confidence and a story and wisdom that can only be gained by living life. How many of you think like Martin Luther King's cool and Oprah Winfrey's cool and some of those people that have a lot of influence are cool, right? Right? And yet here's the thing, every single one of us have that much potential to have that much influence. We do. But we've been stuck in our past. So how does that happen? Let's imagine that. Well, let's just imagine reality here. That when we're a baby, we come here to this planet, and we don't have any conceived notions, we don't have any beliefs yet. we're just coming here our what do you call that, software is empty. Hardware, all empty. So we come here and we're like this blank sheet of paper. And there's nothing on it, and we're pretty happy, and we're so happy and kind of have enough confidence that if we want something, we scream and we let people know. Right? We cry because we think we're important enough, someone's going to listen to us. Problem is, the people that are hearing our cries and taking care of us, they didn't get the best belief systems implanted into their brain. So we come here with all of this confidence, and then we start going through things. And it starts to create all this static that separates us from this perfect, sweet, innocent being that deserved only love, and a great, great future. But because of all the dysfunction that's going on and the things that we experience, we totally forget this part, and we start to believe this. Like me, I believed no one wanted me, right? Even my mother left me. So I was worthless. Right? And I believed that life was hard. And I believed that I was evil and didn't, I believed that hunger was part of everyday life. I believed that all of these things. So where did I get these beliefs that started to tell me how I should look at life? From what I told you in my story, where did I get my beliefs?
Experience.
From your caregivers.
Childhood.
Right, from my caregivers, from my experiences, from where did you get yours? Do you have older siblings? Maybe something to do with the church? Teachers? Bullies? Parents who, really when you look at the adults that we give so much power away, they're still, unless they've done a lot of work, they're just little kids in bigger bodies. But we think because we've always believed because they were bigger and older, they must be wiser. No. If they're telling you anything but what I'm telling you, that there's Oprah Winfrey's and Martin Luther King's in this room, and that risking is worth it, and that you can do anything and make anything happen, and life is meant to be easier than we do, all of those things. They're not telling you the positive stuff, and they're got trapped in these lies too. So let's talk about, fill in the blank for me here. When I say, it's not okay, what would you say? It's not okay to what?
Be mean to others.
To give up.
Yeah.
It's not okay to give up.
That's true.
That's
But what else? Like, for me, it was not okay to shine. Wasn't okay to have any wants, wishes, or desires of my own. Wasn't okay to make money.
The dream.
I'm supposed to, settle. Yep.
Cope.
Work 9 to 5.
Okay, yep. 9 to 5. What else? Be quiet. Be quiet? That's a good one. Makes being an influencer and a speaker and a team leader hard if you're thinking you have this growing in your subconscious. Okay. You said. No. That's my YouTube channel. Yeah. What else did you hear?
Succeed.
Excel.
Excel.
No,
Succeed.
okay to excel.
You should just be happy with.
What you have.
I don't even know my father anymore. It's like up by the fourth word. Okay. Yeah. Who do you think you are? Why do you think you're special?
I believe in myself.
That's a good thing to do. That means you've done some work. So, close your eyes for a minute. And fill in the blank to yourself, like I am. Not I am. Ask your deep core subconscious belief. I am what? Now I can tell you, anytime I all the successes that I've had, that's unbelievable. A lot of times the first thought will come up, I'm not good enough. Does anybody have that come up? Thank you. Yeah. Right? Or I can't do that. Or why do I think I could do that when there's so many other people doing it better? So one of the activities we really want you to do is to really, you have to become aware of what you're really thinking. Now we go to a lot of this stuff, and in this moment it's easy just to think of all the things we're being taught. But if that stuff is not coming out, you're probably not pushing yourself out of your comfort zone to get where you want to go. Our subconscious mind is 10,000 times more powerful than our conscious mind. And most of us are being run on our autopilot. Most of us are being run by our subconscious. Did you say something?
Whenever you want me to.
Just almost right there. Like checking in, I didn't say anything else that I wanted to add to this because I call it our little itty bitty icky committee. Why are you not doing more of what you want to be doing right now? What is stopping you?
Time. Yeah, time to do it. Time. Resources.
Myself.
So when I started my Scentsy business, I was doing 42 plus trade shows a year. I was a mom of 2 kids, Callie and Courtney were still in their teens. And I'm having a hot flash, and I really like it. It's very cold pool.
I know that feeling.
Then I'll get cold after.
Yeah.
So where was I?
Time.
Oh yeah, so I was doing 42 trade shows a year with our lip balm business. I had just been Mrs. Utah, which was something that was probably the heart, when I asked what can I do now, and that's the direction when I got the inspiration I got, I thought, oh no, I'm the tall awkward girl with the bottle thick glasses and the unibrow that would be Godzilla around personality. And I never picked for sports because the one time I did throw the basketball, I got caught in between the board and the hoop. And the whole game had to stop for 15 minutes. I had to have a competitor to get me. And I was that person, so anybody who decided to have me on their team that day was reminded why they never had me on their team. I went to like 34 different schools, so I really had a hard time connecting and fitting in with people. So anyway, so I had asked what I could do, ended up with the whole Mrs. Utah thing. It was the thing that taught me that you just need to show up to go up, that if you're asking, you're getting your intuition, you're getting that unseen help, those answers, the further out of your will's house, the further out of your belief system it is, the more you're supposed to do it, the greater the leap. And what you will do is you'll find out that there's a lot you can do, because you're going to find out there's a lot that you truly aren't good at, but it doesn't matter. That's where I learned that you didn't have to be perfect to be powerful. I remember I have to wear a swimming suit, and I am how old? And I am how shy? And I better have some nice tan lines. And we were living on a farm in Utah, and like 250 people out there, but to my kids, who all of them pretty much went to school with her. So when did my kids get a call and go, did I just see your mom out in the hayfield in a swimming suit and high heels, acting like it was some track?
That's awesome.
Because I was trying, like, I'm a busy girl. So I'm going to get my tan, practicing comfortable in a swimsuit and in my heels and my walk all at the same time. And that was the stage that we had.
Awesome.
Okay, so the night of the swimsuit, part of the deal was you come in on stage this way, you come in, you do, all your little wonderful things, and then you go off the other way so that the other person can come. And the judges are always right here at eye level with the stage. So I'm coming out there acting like, I don't even know why I'm here. You told me to be here, I'm here. And all of a sudden my heels slip, and I'm doing this crotch pose. And swimsuit doesn't leave any room forever. Right there at the judges thing. And I went from terrified to horrified, and I just 2 books, one for them specifically. And I was already kind of at my stress point. I was already having a few little, oh, I can't do this. When I just decided to do what I do every day, what's my next best step? And then the thing was to join Sensei, which someone asked me earlier, Jessica asked me, how did I get started with Sensei? Well, what was it, a couple years before Sensei, I got this wild hair because I like fun things and I wanted a good reason to go shopping all the time, I think. So I decided I'd start a home party plan called Happy Hang-Ups. So I could buy everything that the women would get all happy and hung up on, jewelry, clothing, and all those things. And then I decided, since candles were a really big deal, that I wanted to have candles in my home party lineup to offer my customers, my hostesses. But I didn't want the candles that everybody else had. So I decided I'd go, well, when I say I'm going to do it, I can't do it every without him. So I thought, hey, we need to come up with a candle line of our own.
You need to come up with
And so we looked into it and we decided gel candles were kind of the new thing and they were so pretty. So we were doing all these beautiful gel candle things. And then we realized that with gel, if you're familiar with that, and a flame, you can't hardly put any fragrance in there. It's very volatile. In fact, I remember one time we delivered to this really expensive mansion, like we had these $100 big fish bowls with, you remember them, all beautiful. And they invited us into our house and we set them all out. They decided to light one and one just went, because if you don't mix it in good enough too, then you get a pocket.
Oh my God.
And I'm thinking, nice house, but we got it out, all was well. So again, things don't, the check was still good, okay. So if we were gonna compete with the market, we were going to have to do something different. So we decided to do simmering gels, and we got this cute little tin cans, filled them with gel, no flame, no wick, and put a lot of scent in there, got some potpourri warmers, and that's how we sold them. Now here's the fun part of the story, because we're in Utah, we're at the same show as Orville Thompson is that any of you all know, selling his ShamWow and his car wax at the time, and Karen Follett, and none of us know each other, and Karen Follett are doing wax with warmers. So it's in the consciousness, right?
Yeah.
Well, about that time, I realized that the scent is making me sick. And I don't like doing home parties. So this is just not the business for us. So we sold all of our supplies for like $8 grand, and we were like happy to walk away and have that experience. I hope you guys can keep up with me. Because I love it. I'm being fun too. So, here I am, this is Utah. Decided not to, I asked what the next best step is, and I'm feeling, so Callie, you all know Callie, because Callie's really stepping up and letting me, allowing me to do now my next level of business I'm supposed to be doing. And, but at that time she was a starting college student, and she had called me and said there was this company, Sensei, and she wanted to buy warmers for everybody on her Christmas list.
She wanted you to know.
Right. So I ended up, I said, there was a Sensei consultant who tried to buy lip balms for us, and she needed them sooner than our turnaround time. So I'll call this person, and if they're still willing to trade, then I'll get you your Christmas gift. That was Dorothy Thurman. I don't know if you guys know, she's my sponsor. And I called her, and she said yes, and so we ended up with $500 worth of Sensei warmers and bars. And what Dorothy had done was she had taken a flyer, and she had just put one flyer that had this invitation to join her team or host a party and whatever reward was going on at the time. But she had put in, I think we had most of them had 50-something bars, and we had like 8 or 10 warmers, so there were 8 or 10 flyers in there. And I'm looking at this thinking, well, candles are not my thing, and I'm certainly not doing home party stuff, but I recognize what we as business owners do, and it's time, and it's money. So I'm going to fold that up and put it in each of the boxes, so wherever these warmers end up going, at least this Dorothy Thurman's marketing is going. Little did I know that God was working on me, because every time I look at the flyer, there'd be this little thing that says, you need to join Sensei, you need to join Sensei. Well, right now I'm already about to have a nervous breakdown because I'm doing Mrs. Utah, and I'm never home with my kids, and I'm doing these 42 trade shows a year, and I'm the only salesperson, and then once people buy our lip balm, because we private label for companies, then I make sure they get it. I mean, I'm coordinating everything. And now he wants me to do something that is not. It's already proven. I don't like candles. They make me sick. And I don't want to do party plans. And so I thought he was really wrong this time. I really did. So finally, it was New Year's Eve. It'll be New Year's Eve, so it'll be 12 years this New Year's. The special that Dorothy was offering was going to be done at midnight. And so I thought, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to prove you wrong, but at least I'm going to get my free stuff. So we were eating shrimp and cocktail sauce, and I said to Terry, hey, I thought he was already trying to see me hold myself together. And so I said, hey, I think I'm supposed to join this direct sales company with candles. And fortunately, he's always really into it too. He said, okay, do it. So that was New Year's Eve. And so I said to myself, okay, got the free stuff. And I'm going to prove to whoever's the idea giver that this time they were really calling the shots. Wrong. So to do that, I'm going to have to be the best farm consultant that there ever was, even though I don't even know what that looks like, to prove, so when I say it doesn't work, and nothing can be turned back and said, well, you didn't give it your best, or you didn't do this. So the idea that I came was to plug in a warmer for 3 to 5 people a day for the next 30 days. Have you ever plugged in a warmer a day for people? How about 3 to 5 warmers a day for people? So that's what I did. And I always ask the 3 golden questions. What are the 3 golden questions? Probably like on all of our literature. So I'll take it here. So the next morning when I wake up and realize what I had done and wondered what was in the cocktail sauce, I was New Year's and I called my sponsor. I go, hey, I'm a really busy person. Like, I don't mean this to sound like, I don't want to come off wrong, but I'm a really busy person. So if I'm going to do this business, then I need to know, are people really making money at this? So like, what are some people making at it? She said, oh, well, I think Nicole Furlan is making 20 grand a month. I remember, 20 grand a month. And then she named somebody else who's making 40 grand a month. I go, oh, I could maybe fit time in for that kind of job. Yeah, okay. So I immediately got on the phone and started calling people. Now, I didn't know very many people in our community for 2 reasons. One, I was gone all the time, and the few times that I did show up at a kid's thing or whatever, I got a lot of judgment for being the mom that was always gone. In fact, I got so overly sensitive to it that one time I thought, and I'm especially back then a super doormatty, walk all over me, gentle nature person. I'm still really sweet, gentle nature, but I'm not a doormat anymore. So there's hope if you feel like you're doing that. Anyways, I remember one day telling Terry, if one more person just even glances at me wrong, where is your shotgun? I'm going postal. Did you know how sometimes we get judgments, right? So anyways, I started calling people that I didn't even know. Like maybe I had met one time 5 years ago and said, hey, I know it's New Year's, but I got the coolest thing for Christmas. Can I come over and show it? People said yes. I guess it's some strange person. I don't know why they said yes. And I remember going out to my first house. Now, when you're going to do this, make sure everything's unpacked. Make sure you have a cube of each of your most favorite scents already out ready to go because you don't want to spend their precious time. You want everything just ready to plug in and pick a scent and let's see what this is like. So I remember literally shaking up to the first door and knocking on the door, and the woman opened the door, and she saw my warmer, and she goes, oh, I have one of those in my kitchen. And I was so deflated, but I thought I was really good at hiding it. Later she'd tell me that. She said, you should have seen me, balloon pop. So I went in, and I'm thinking, see, it's saturated, this is Utah, this is where it started, this is a stupid idea, I don't have time for this, blah, 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 right? But then I thought, so what was the first question I asked her? So I can remember that. It's not Michael, that's the bonus question. Okay, so I go in and I say, I don't even know who's showing up here today. Is that what you're thinking?
No, I'm thinking, how could they not know that? Okay.
Okay. So I say, okay, well, how do I get out of here super fast? Because I've got 4 more houses to go to, and obviously this person already has a warmer, so this is not going to go anywhere, right? Would you think maybe that too? And then you'd think, yes, surely this is saturated. But there was a question I could ask her.
She want to join.
Did she want to earn it for free? Would you like to have a party and earn some more for free? Because clearly you like it. So clearly you like it, so would you like to have a party? I'm so proud of you to ask this question. And she said no. Well, I could deflate even lower. I'm like, huh. Oh, that's pretty low. But there's one more question, you guys already said it.
Join.
Would you like to join? And she said, yes. So isn't that cool that I did? I stuck it out. Because my little itty bitty Yankee committee was telling me not to do this. So she joined. And she went to her sensational level 3.
Wow.
And then within her first year, she was gone. Every time she sees me, she just hates herself. And she knows.
Wow.
Right. So, so that's what I did. And you know what I found out? And this is the crazy thing too, because I lived in a small town and I knew how hard and poor a lot of these mothers were. So I'm thinking they're going to be all about the business opportunity because they need to make money. And I show them the stuff, and then they go, okay, how much? I'm like, this one really fun. I'm thinking, you don't have any money. So what does that tell us?
They will buy it.
If people want something,
They'll buy it.
they always
They find the
Let them
money.
make the decision. Don't ever be the one that goes, I don't think they can afford it. So I thought I knew what they wanted the business, but they showed me they wanted the product. So just about every time you find out that we don't know, we just need to ask. So I did that, and by the end of the first January, I've tried to prove that this idea was bad by just working it, expecting it to
This is
fail.
January, right, the worst month of the year.
Yeah. So to me, I think it's like the best month of the year. So at that time, January is the last 30 days to earn an incentive. You needed 30,000 points. I got 24,000, but I didn't even know what was going on. And it wasn't until my sponsor and everybody was sitting at the incentive going, oh, we should have told Becca. She probably could have made that happen. But nobody thought that this would happen. And I didn't think it was going to happen either. I just wanted to do the work and prove the work doesn't work. But did it actually prove? It worked.
Opposite.
Yeah. So, how did I find time to do that with all of that other crazy Mrs. Utah author trade show, everything else that was going on? How did I find the time?
If you want something,
wanted
you'll
it.
find the time.
I chose to make the time.
Yeah.
I chose to make the time. And I am so grateful because within my first 3 or 4 years, I had sponsored 400 people. And then all I had to do was sponsor a couple people a year, but mostly just enjoy literally the millions of dollars. Income, disclosure statement. My results are not typical. Why are my results not typical?
Because your work is not typical.
Because I did things that most people won't do. But you could do them too. Every success story you hear says they did this, they just did something crazy. They did something that they didn't think that they could do, should do, was responsible enough to do, worth doing. And let me tell you, when I told my husband, I met Levie, and I don't know if you guys know her, but I went to a meeting like this, and she had just got her second November check. And it was $15,000 for the month, so this was clear back. This was like the week after I joined. I thought, well, I like that idea. I know I could go way higher, obviously, because she told me about the other people, but that would be a good first year goal, to make $15,000 in 1 month. And I came home, and then I knew that women in this industry, I knew of women that were making $50,000 a month. So I went home and I said to my husband, I'm really excited, I met this lady and I'm going to make $15,000 a month by the end of the first year. And this is one of the most supportive, amazing men that there are.
Yeah, Terry.
And he loves me dearly and he thinks I'm pretty cool. But he said, what'd you say?
I'm a realist.
Okay.
They crushed and my feelings hurt, right? So I couldn't tell him about my $50,000 month goal because he was joking about a $50,000. And during that first couple years, my kids hated Scentsy. Callie hated Scentsy. Courtney hated Scentsy. They were always hiding my phone. They were doing everything they could to self-sabotage me and make me feel guilty. But now you know my Callie the way she is today.
Yeah.
And what she's grown into, especially this last year.
3 years she would talk to us.
Right? So there's a great quote that I'd love to share with you, but basically the point is that if you're going to get where those people are that you wish you could get like there, you're going to have to be the only one standing in the arena, believing enough for everybody, taking on the crap that they throw at you, this isn't for you, whatever. Because success and the law of the harvest and the law of attraction, the law of vibration. See, my creator, he set up the universe. And he set up these laws that work. So he doesn't have to get in every second and go, well, I don't know. Should we bless him this time or not, right? No. Just like gravity is a law. Do you know anybody that isn't affected by gravity? How about air? Does everybody get equal air?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, these are things that are there, just like these other laws. And he doesn't ever say, Tanasia, I'm really disappointed you this week, so no air. So if he doesn't draw the line on the sun and the air and the gravity, why do we think he draws the line on the rest of the, you get what you sow, you reap what you sow, right?
Because of those scribbles.
Exactly. So if you are stuck and you believe in limitations of any kind, time, energy, whatever, then you bought in, because these things are formed between your 0 and 7th year. They are. Everything that we do, we run on an autopilot. That were the beliefs of our caregivers who didn't have Napoleon Hill or Earl Nightingale or now Becca Levie as their parent to teach them differently. They had people that had small limitations. One of my favorite affirmations that Terry got me saying all the time is, ready for this? This is one that you want to be like, you want to be rewriting your story all the time. There is enough. There has always been enough. There has always been enough. And there will always be enough. But most of our caregivers says there's not enough to go around. You don't want to be selfish. You want to give it to this person, or you have to work really hard, and only special people get that. In our family, we just that's not who we are. All of those money belief systems. But at the same time, in every part of history, there's always been those that had the influence, not just in political arena or biggest cow ranch or whatever, but in abundance, because their family history taught them that there is enough.
Yeah.
There's always enough. If you put out the seeds, if you do work the laws that are equally governing all of us, that there is nobody out there saying you're not good enough, you weren't smart enough, you made too many mistakes, whatever. No. The laws work however we tell them to work.
Mm-hmm.
So Terry's got some great things to share.
Okay. So, after that great introduction, right, that I said she couldn't do it. Actually, I didn't say she couldn't do it. Because I am older than her, right? I'm 11 years older than her. I joined my first network marketing company in 1977. Okay? So I've been around the industry a long time. I know people that make millions, literally, a month in the industry. And I have been in a lot of them. I myself grew up on a farm with 4 sisters. Well, actually a big ranch. With 4 sisters and me. Had no brothers. So I had a dog and a horse and cows. Okay? And so until I went to college, I was not really that social. I could get along in high school and all of that kind of stuff. But sales arena and all that kind of stuff didn't make any sense to me. So I had to learn how to do all of this stuff. And I figured out, I got married the first time, and unfortunately I married a woman that was, came from a very wealthy family, and kind of, I don't know why I did it. Anyway, I did. It was kind of because her mother said I couldn't, and I said, you watch me. And not a good way to start things. And so I had to learn how to do all these things. And back before Google, you had, and YouTube, you actually had to read books. And so there was no way else, right?
Yeah.
So I started reading self-help books. First self-help book I ever read was in 1983. It was called What Do You Say When You Talk to Yourself? about self-talk. Now at that time, this new psychology of winning was just coming about, that we actually had a choice in what we did. That we, you know, before then we'd had these big conversations in the world about nurture versus nature and what we're born with and what we're hardwired with and what we're DNA with, and that you can't teach old dogs new tricks, that you can't change your mind, all of this kind of stuff. Now, fast forward 50 years, 40 years, 50 years, and we find out that all of the really wacko people, you know, like James Allen and all those people that were writing books back in the 1919s about how we could change our mind and believe all this stuff, you know, it's actually true. Now they actually have a word for it. It's called neuroplasticity. Your mind can actually change. We have neural pathways in our mind that start creating the minute we are conceived. Not the minute we're born. The minute we're conceived. That's why you see all of these people talking to their baby and singing all that, you know, that we used to make fun of. That actually works. You know why? Because babies can remember stuff. Nobody ever told us babies could remember stuff. Our parents certainly didn't believe babies could remember stuff, because if they did, they would have done half the things they did or said half the things they said. Because most of them weren't trying to be abusive to us. They were just teaching us what they knew. Sometimes it was a little harsh, you know, especially in my age group. Some of your age groups was a little harsh, very harsh, some of it. I was very similar to Becca. I was born crippled. I was never supposed to walk. Fortunately, I had a dad that was not going to let that happen. I was also able to go to a nonprofit hospital and get my legs broken, twisted, and straightened out, because both of them were deformed. And still at that time, I was not supposed to get out of a wheelchair. But my dad, the rancher, wasn't going to have a son that could walk, you know, so we walked. Didn't have much choice, right? Also, I'm going to change my name, because I've been Terry my whole life. Found out the other day I was supposed to be called Kalani. My mom is Native Hawaiian. My dad is not. Okay? He's from south central Utah. So was his dad, so was his dad, so was his dad. Okay? Literally, I talked to the people that knew my mom when she came there. There had never been anybody in the valley of a different color than white. Okay? This was back in the 1950s. So when my dad brought my mom home and was brown, it was considered an interracial marriage. She was not accepted. In fact, she was only part Hawaiian because her dad was Portuguese, so she wasn't accepted in Hawaii, because she was a half-breed. She was half. Okay. So when I was born, there was this battle that went on, right? My mom wanted to name me Kalani. My dad said there ain't no way that my son is going to have a girl's name. You know, it just ain't going to happen. Well, all the other names and family were already taken up by other boys that had already been born before me. So my mom couldn't figure out what to name me. So on my birth certificate, there's not a name to begin with. So they decided, my mom just said, okay, we'll just name him Terry, which was a kind of an exciting, I guess, a big name in those days. But mostly now it's used for girls. So I've gone the whole circle. Right? Every time I go in someplace and I tell them my name's Terry, they say, do you spell that with an I? No! That's So why? It's a boy's name. Anyway, so I'm going to change my name to Kalani. So, it actually means the heaven. And so, anyway, so, we start with these things, right? Now, I didn't know at the time that this was supposedly, I didn't know, right? But I'm in this life. I'm here listening to my parents decide who I'm going to be. That it's not this, not good enough for that, not worthy of this, can't have a cripple, live with the grandparents who are even worse, So these things start getting set in your mind. Now, we didn't know all this stuff. I didn't know all this stuff until recently when I'd done some different things. But you can actually go to the point where you remember these things. Okay? And when you can remember these things, then you can release the blocks. But we're not going to go there today. What we're going to do is we're going to talk about mindset. Okay? Because we all have one. We all have a mindset, and we're all extremely good at manifesting. We hear all this stuff. Ooh, if we could just manifest. We do. Look around. What life do you have? You've manifested it. There's not one of you in here that didn't get where you're at without getting there. None of you got here by accident. Y'all made choices. Y'all made different things. You all, everybody else said, and whether it's because we want them to be our friends, or we want them to like us, or whatever the reason is, we are who we are because we listen and give our power away to everybody else. Okay? They decided that, you've all seen an iceberg. We don't have a thing up here. But an iceberg, you see this big thing sticking out underneath it? On a regular iceberg will be, maybe. Pardon me? We'll draw an iceberg. Okay? There's an iceberg. According to science, 3% of the iceberg is what we see. 97% is under the ocean. According to science, 1 to 5% of our mind is our conscious, what we think is actually happened. 95 to 99% is subconscious. We all live our lives on autopilot. And where did the autopilot and the GPS get programmed? From every word you've heard, everything everybody's told you, and more specifically, since you got to be about 15 years old, more what you told yourself. Okay? More what you tell yourself. When I ask a question, and I don't want to offend anybody, but are we where we want to be in our lives?
Definitely.
Nope.
In our lives, happiness-wise. In our lives, relationship-wise. In our lives, financially. In our lives, peacefully. In our lives,
Physically.
philanthropically. Yeah.
We got you.
And if we're not, why aren't we? We have time to go to work. do what other people tell us to do. We have time to do what our kids want us to do. We have time to do what our husbands want us to do, what our spouses want us to do, what the neighbor wants us to do, what the crosswalk guard wants us to do. So, what do we want to do? See, mindset is we all have one. Okay? All we have to do is figure out how to change it. Not get rid of it, because it's there. Okay? It's remembered everything you've ever thought and anything that was ever said to you or was said behind your back or was said that you could hear. Remembers it. What we need to do is to figure out how to change our mindset to the point where it leads us to someplace we want to be, rather than blocking us, because we come to meetings like this, or we learn something, or we watch TV, and we say, I want to do that. We get all excited, and we join Sensi, and then we're going to go meet our first person, and our mind says, you've been telling me for the last 57 years that you have a hard time meeting people. And so it's my job to keep you safe and to keep you happy and stress-free. So in order for me to do that, we're not going to meet her. Okay? So we don't meet her. And our subconscious is kind of happy. But our conscious ain't, right? So we get this battle going on. And we get this battle going on, and we got part of us wants to, and then the itty-bitty committee, which is bigger, starts dragging us this way. And so what does most of us do? It's called paralysis. We don't do anything. We wish we would, we want to could, we wish we would, we want to could. We're going to do it tomorrow. Okay? So, what we're going to do today is hopefully give you a couple things that will help you change, start to change. Because it's taken, some of you are younger. How old are you? 19. So you've only been going through this world for 19 years. So you only have so much stuff built up. Okay? Some of us are, I'm 65, 64. So I've had my stuff going on for 65 years. So I got more stuff. Right? We all start at the same place. But unfortunately, these neural pathways that we start with and get built up from abuses especially, or from traumas of some type, from getting left, from physical abuse, social abuse, sexual abuse, all kinds of different abuses. They start getting these little, what are called neural pathways, and by the time they're 6 or 7, these neural pathways are set, and then every experience we have after that makes those stronger. Okay? So to get to the end, to get to them and shake them around is a longer process than we're going to go through right now. But what we're going to do right now is just start to learn how little simple things that we can do. So in order to show us actually how strong our mind is and how susceptible we are to it, let's just all close our eyes. Now, by the show of hands, who in here's had a lemon before? Eaten a lemon? Close your eyes. Okay. Everybody's eaten a lemon. Now just imagine that you have a lemon. You go to the cutting board, you put your lemon down, you pull out a knife, and you slice through the lemon. All that juicy, oozy, gooey, kind of sweet, kind of not sweet lemon juice comes out. And then you pick it up, and you hold it up to your nose, and you smell it. And then you open your mouth and just take a big bite. Feel the juice running down your throat, down your side, down your throat, and that tangy. Some people love lemon, some people, Okay, now open your eyes. How many of you could actually see the lemon? Okay. How many of you could actually taste the lemon? How many of you could actually feel the liquid running down your throat? The saliva. You know why that is? Because the mind cannot tell the difference between something vividly imagined and something that's actually real. That is why when you do your imageries and your vision boards and you're thinking about things, you vividly imagine it because your mind cannot tell the difference. It's like a dream. When you wake up from a dream, you think you're there, right? You wake up wondering, sometimes you're wondering where the person went that you were with, because that was kind of nice. Or you're afraid the monster's going to get you, But either way, you're not there. You believe you are. Okay? Your mind believes you. And your body does the same thing. It physically does what your mind tells it to. Okay? So another way we're going to do this is, okay, you're probably the strongest in the room right now. Could you come up here for a second?
Yay!
And I don't want to make the choice, but who do you think is the least weak? Or
Weak or lighter?
The most weak, right?
the most weak?
No,
The most weak, I'm sorry.
Oh, gosh.
Or the strongest, either way.
Weak.
Or you work out all the time. Come on up here. Okay. Now, you're doing good. Just stand here. Okay, now just hold your arm out like this straight. Okay. Now just hold it as straight, as hard as you can. Just as tight as you can. Push down now. Push down as hard as you can. Now, hold it tight. Strong as you can. Okay, just lightly push it. Okay, that's strong. Okay, now just let it go. Okay. Good. Now come up here. Okay, now what we're going to do is, you're going to do the same thing. You're going to keep the same pressure. Okay. Now, lie to yourself. Yeah, lie to yourself. Okay. Okay. I'm strong. Just say I'm strong. Okay. Because the body works with positive stuff. Okay, what's your name?
Julius.
Pardon me? Julius. Okay.
That's a strong
Say,
name.
my name is Julius.
My name is Julius.
Push down. Okay, now is it Julius straight or is it Julius with something else?
Just Julius.
Just Julius. Okay. Someone say, my name's Nashila.
My name is Sheila.
Harder to hold, huh? Okay. I am a male.
I am a male.
Okay. To hold the start. Okay. I am a female.
I am a female.
Okay. Your body cannot lie to you. Okay. So, now we love this guy. Okay. But pretend that you don't. Pretend he has every kind of male thought you hate about men. No.
Poor thing.
Not gonna hurt him. Okay. We there?
Yep.
Okay. Now push down. Okay, no problem. Now think everything good about him that you can. Okay? Now try. Not only do our own thoughts influence us, the thoughts of other people influence us. And Becca's going to explain why this is when she gets into vibration and signatures and stuff. So we see that negativity actually makes us weak. And positively makes us strong. Okay? Now, say I'm a loser.
I'm a loser.
Push. Okay? I'm strong.
I'm strong.
I'm a winner.
I'm a winner.
Okay? See? Now, whether he is or not, I don't know. Okay? He might win at some things, he may lose at some things. But his body is going to tell him the truth. Because he is a winner. He might not win at everything he does, but as a human being, he's a winner. Nobody as a human being is a loser. Okay? That's fine. So negativity, yeah. And we always have heard that we need to be positive and all of that. But sometimes we put on this positive face, this positive mask, and our minds are not being positive. You know? You go talk to the friend, you know, you just like to stare in the back, you know? And, you know, oh sweetheart, you know, I wish I could just smack you again. The energies can sense that. I call it spirits, okay? Because we all have a spirit. And all spirits are free of our bodies, okay? So they can talk to each other. And sometimes, because we don't know what everything is, they agree to play in our game, right? Because we're all playing games, right? Most of us don't really know who we are, because we're actually a conglomeration of what everybody's told us in our life. Most of us, they say, well, just be you. They told me that once. And when I first started this stuff back in 1993, and they said, I went to a training, and they said, just be you. I said, I don't even know who I am. You know? I grew up this way. I've been told this way. You know? I grew up in a very religious, fundamentalist church family, leader kind of person. And then I grew up and went to finish high school in the middle 60s in California. They told me a different thing. Then I went to college and they told me a different thing. And then I got married and she told me how I was going to be. And because I thought that's what I wanted, I changed. Right? So I didn't know who I was. And most of us don't know who we are. The thing is, when we start questioning who we are, when we do something and it doesn't feel right, and we ask ourselves, what was the purpose for that? You know, you can't lie to yourself. The real answer will come, and immediately you'll say, no, that's not right. And your subconscious will take over and will tell you what you want to hear. Okay? So, as we become more and more aware, awakened, to what is actually controlling us and what is actually causing us to do what we do, we can then find ways to bypass this and get by this to where we can achieve the things we want to achieve. Because all of you are here because you want something different than you had or have. Okay? I'm here because I want something different than I have. She's here because she wants something different than she has. That's human nature. We all want more than we have. Not always more money, but we want to know who we are. Okay? Now, some of you may have bigger dreams, like they want, she has a dream to be a philanthropist and a speaker. You may have a dream to do this, you may have a dream to do this. The thing with Sensi is that it is a fantastic vehicle because everything in this world anymore takes money. The more money you have, the more good you can do. And the more money you have, the more bad you can do. And if you really are afraid of yourself, the less money you have, the less bad you'll do. So your mind sometimes says to you, I'm going to keep you broke. Because you want to be broke because you're afraid to have money. Because you don't trust yourself with money. Because why? We've been told money is the root of all evil. Right? And it's usually those that have just that much more money than us, But if you can find you can find billionaires that are terrible people. You can find billionaires that are great people. You can find broke people that are evil people. And you can find broke people that are good people. So logically that doesn't fit. Okay? It's just a mindset. All right? Me, I'm overweight. Okay? Now, you can agree with that, okay? I wasn't as a youth, okay? I never was. Never had a weight problem. Till I got married the first time. Now, I kind of had this affinity for women, okay? So when I found out that women are not that excited about fat guys. It's just not that, especially if they're married fat guys. Now, if I was a married hot guy with lots of money, they might be. But see, I'm not. So I'm safe. I'm serious. This is serious. This is me. This is why I weighed less. I weighed more when I got married, when I got divorced the first time than I did the second time. First time. When I got divorced, I weighed 100 pounds less when I married her. Okay? Wanted her more, so I gained more weight. Because I didn't trust myself. Okay? And this makes no sense. Right? But the subconscious is strong enough that it doesn't matter what, at least in the past, that I ate or didn't eat, it would keep me a certain weight. And I could lose 50 pounds, and then my mind would say, you're in big trouble, Jack. And I could still keep eating the same stuff, keep working out the same way. I'd gain weight back. Get right up to a certain point, stay there. Okay? So the body can do, the mind can do really interesting things. Okay? And so what we need to do is to begin to understand that, is it our fault we're where we're at? Yes. Is it our fault where we're at? No. Because we can only do what we know. Nobody has ever done anything that they haven't thought of first. Okay? Your body can't do anything unless it thinks about it first. Yes, it can. It can do two things. It can eat, or it can take nourishment. Because you can be brain dead and still have body function, but they have to run with a pump. Right? You can breathe because your mind won't let you die. Okay? But there are people that can stop their heart. You've probably seen them in Bali. You have people that slow their heartbeats down, that can raise their temperatures, that can lower their temperatures, all with their mind. Okay? So the mind is what we need to work with first. So that's why we picture things. That's why we imagine things. Because you cannot do anything, anything, unless you think about it first. So we start, and that's one thing we can control. It's our thoughts. And then after we control our thoughts, as soon as we think of something in our mind, it makes a picture of this. Okay? And then the picture makes an emotion, and then the body does the action. Okay? So we start with our mind, and then we do all of the mind work. Well, really, it's not much, because you just remember, we all know it. We all know how crappy we feel at the end of the day. We tell the boss, yeah, we gave 90, we gave 118% today. Yeah, you're thinking, yeah, right. I didn't either, you know. When we look in the mirror, we know that mirror don't lie back to us, okay? Unless it does, because it can. When the mirror doesn't lie back, but our mind does. When we talk to the mirror, we look in the mirror, we say, man, you are one great dude, and there's something in your mind that goes, yeah, right. Okay? That's not the mirror lying back, that's you lying to yourself. Okay, so then we can catch it. We can stop, and we can catch what we're thinking, and we can have a chance to change our mind. And then when we change our mind, we change our actions. When we change our actions, we change our fortunes. We change our relationships. We change our relationships with our kids. We change our relationships with our car. We change our relationships with everything. With God, with everything. Okay? So, that's my part of the deal. I will turn it over to Becca and let her teach you how to. I know it.
All right, stand up for a minute, if y'all will. Just kind of gives you a little.
I've been dying to stand.
It tells you the quality of your bra, apparently.
Yeah, mine's little.
All right. I want you, well, first of all, how many of you think it's important to be open-minded?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Absolutely.
Okay. How many of you think you're open-minded?
Very.
Imagine for a moment that your head is built like a cookie jar, and there's a lid, so just reach up there and grab your lid, feel the knob in your hand, grab it, and then just give it a toss into the air and watch it go away. I'm so proud of you. You guys are a great group. There's only one of you in here that didn't do the cookie jar exercise. Well, I can't because you
Okay,
walk the
sorry.
I can do it again. Everybody reach up there, put the lid on your thing, and give it a toss and watch away. We just gave ourselves, we just trained our nervous system. We're working on that neuroplasticity to say, I am going to take the next step to open-mindedness. Because here's the thing, whenever Terry and I train, the least thing we think that's important to train you on is what to do and how to do it, and booking and all that. I've talked a little bit about it in my story, just a little bit. But you can get that from anybody. You know, there's that book that if all it took to know how to be rich, skinny, and famous, we'd all be rich, skinny, and famous, because we know, and the resources are there. This is the foundational work. You guys can sit down again. This is the foundational work. The mindset is the foundational work to get where we are, or we're, you know, and we're only in the top 10. There's people in our company that make more money than we do, and we make a lot. So we marvel all the time. We lived in a town of 250 people counting chickens, and yet we travel the world, and we have all of this stuff because we just did the work. And back when we were doing the work, and his family, his sisters and their husbands were living in nice houses and driving nice cars and doing the thing that you just do. You get a good job, and you work hard, you do all that. building houses. Isn't that right? And we took every cent we had to go to trainings. We invested in trainings. I remember one time when we went to a 9-month training course, we took Callie, she was 16, and it was $3,000 a person. We were living in a single wide trailer, driving that had been shot up. One day we left to do one of our businesses on a trade show. We were selling like donuts or something at a fair. Came back and somebody thought our house would be good target practice.
Wow.
And we were driving, and he was, how old were you then? I was 27 when you met me, right?
He's 38.
And you were 38, so you were almost 40. And so everybody laughed at us, you know? And they would say, I remember one time we went to dinner with 2 of the sisters and her husband, and they sat down and said, well, when are you guys going to grow up? And what do you really think that this network marketing thing that you're going to do is ever going to make you any money? And it's kind of tough when they're, you know, your siblings and their husbands with their decent lifestyles are sitting there saying, you know, somebody's got to talk to you, you know, white trash boomers over there. But we took every penny that we had and we settled that way because we knew we needed to get the mindset, we needed to be in the energy, we needed to get the training that we would need so that no matter what came our way, we could make the most of it, the best of it. We could believe in it long enough to do what it takes long enough to get where we are. And we're not saying that millions of dollars is where it's at, but we're just also saying there's nothing shabby about being able to have a nonprofit now. There's nothing shabby about being able to tithe to our church. There's nothing shabby about being able to see people who need help and be able to help them. Because I had such a struggle with it being okay to make money. Such a struggle. When I started to make the money, I like literally went into self-sabotage because my subconscious iceberg was telling me danger, 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 you know, and I'm not good enough. And I remember when I first had money to do something nice, I was like, oh, I would never get a massage because that's just kind of what lascivious people do, or that's too heathenist, or whatever. I mean, it's crazy the things that I didn't know, right? Oh, I would never stay at that nice of hotels. I'm not too good for motel sex. You know what I mean? One day, again, conversations from above said, Becca, everybody who you're afraid to do business with, they're my children too. And I gave them their talents, and I gave them their creativity, and I gave them their passions, and they prayed to me, and they asked me for help to succeed. So when clients come in and enjoy the gifts that I gave them, then they say thank you. Some of them even know it's me, and some of them even tithe. But I gave them their gifts, and they can't be who I created them to be if nobody sits in their chair or eats their food or buys their clothing or whatever. So if you're not willing to get rid of the crap that you were taught here that's not my truth, then I'll just let some other one of your siblings go in and enjoy those business offerings. I said, oh, when you put it that way, I'll sit in that chair, I'll lay on that table, I'll put my foot in that water, I'll buy that, right? But we have to become aware because most of us are just running on autopilot, exhausted, frustrated, tired. When we do try to step out of it, it feels like we get slammed right back, and it just doesn't seem worth it, impossible. And then we pride ourselves in being this meek, humble who doesn't need too much. But here's the thing: if only the rich people, if good people didn't have money, then they would control all the media, all the politics, all the fashions, all the things. We need good people with lots of money to help our society be wholesome and moral and good, and create things that are good in the world, not just video games that are violent or whatever. Do you know what I mean? If everybody said, oh, money isn't worth my time, then who would be running the world? So we just have to step up and keep asking what to do, today, right now. And it will continue because it's a big climb from where you're at right now to where we're saying you're created to go. Yeah, so we're not going to look at it the whole picture. We're going to do it just one question, one leap, one action at a time. And that's why we'll spend all this time, and it's a lot of time, right guys, telling you, pleading with you, to say, to go home and do exercises that I thought maybe we'd have time to do here, but we're not, that says, what are my beliefs about money? What are my beliefs about me? What are my beliefs about time? What are my beliefs about this? And is it getting me where I want? And if it's not, then I need to go back and I need to clean the slate that was programmed and decide now what I am going to believe and be a co-creator with we're finite, it's infinite, right? So of course we can only see this much of the picture, and it's got us where we are. And there's so much more. Like what Terry said, we want more. You're like, why would you want more? Because we're created to keep evolving. I think that in the world of our Creator, there's Christmas comes every year, and sometimes twice a year, and sometimes quarterly, and sometimes bi-monthly, right? Because as parents, I love to surprise my kids. I love to give them new things. I love to see them stretch and grow and accomplish. And that's our innate essence. That's why we want more and feel like there should be more, because that's who we are. We aren't supposed to give up. We are not supposed to settle. So what we're saying here today is that takes work. It's the most important work you can do. If you don't do this inner work, if you don't figure out what's driving you and what your blocks are that have kept you to where you are, it doesn't matter how many parties you book, you won't get the results that you want, because internally you don't believe it's okay. You don't believe you're good enough. So you have to do the inner work, and then the money will work. And that's what we're here just saying to you. Get the books, go to the trainings like this, show up to events, make sure that if we're having 50 to 60,000 thoughts a day, and you can probably only think of maybe 20 that you run regularly, do the math. There's a whole lot going on that we are not aware. And we're just looping a lot of the same stuff. Oh, I'm so tired. Oh my gosh, I need a coffee. Oh, the coffee's wore off. Oh, you know what I mean? We're just running this loop, and we're staying stuck, and we don't have to. When we go to buy a house, anybody gone house shopping? Anybody dream of going house shopping again? What do you do when you go house shopping? Like, if we're going to go house shopping, what are we going to do? We're going to call a realtor? And if we're smart, we're going to pick a price range way out of our budget right now. And we're going to go look so we can get better at dreaming and fantasizing, right? And we're going to go in and we're going to look at the color on the walls and our counter choices and our cabinet choices and that double vanity and the big clawfoot tub and all the extra room for our CNC and all of this stuff, right? And then we're going to go home and think, Sunday, that was fun.
Reality kicks in.
How many of you said, this is good, whatever, but can you take me down and let's crawl underneath the house and can we dig up and see what kind of foundations they poured and what kind of pipe, and how many of us think that's important, and how many of us ever do that when we're looking at a house? We just trust the builder, we just look at all the pretty stuff, and that's where our focus is. And that's what we're doing every day. And what we're saying to you is the mindset work is, because if you build a house and nobody did all that work, what's going to happen? It's going to crumble. So we're just trying to say to you, this is the foundational work. Remember going to Mastermind for my first time, and one of the speakers that was up there, she explained something to me that I didn't know. Because I joined Cincy, and yes, I did the 30-day challenge, and I didn't stop from there for like the first 3 years. But I was one of those people that it's like, oh, she just joined, she went right to the top. Yeah, my first year I went right to the top. Oh, by the way, it took me 14 months to get my first $15,000 check. And we did way surpass.
I told you.
I way surpassed the $50,000 check. And the increase of our check last month, even though we did all of our foundational work those first 4 years, was $22,000 more in 1 month than the month before last year. So if you think you're Cincy going anywhere, oh, it's going. But we were at Mastermind, and this woman was speaking, and she said that if you see somebody come into a company and they skyrocket right to the top, it's because they've done the work. They've done the mental work to be able to come in and run with a great product and a great company. Now, most people come in, and all of this stuff is pretty much new to them. And it takes 5 to 7 years for most people to go to enough events and hear enough of the people who have made it to the top to finally go, oh, the foundation really matters. Oh, if I did this, then I could get this. And so if people stay around in a company 5 to 7 years and keep showing up and getting a little bit more knowledge, a little bit more aha, and start doing more of this work, then they can do from their 5th to 7th or 8th year, whenever the light bulb moment goes on, in the next year, what I did in the first year. And they start where you're at. It just matters what you're doing in here. So that's just what, like, if I could beg and plead with anybody, it's like, this is what you want to learn. So how many of you realize that the lemon thing, that's how powerful your thought was to create all of that? Well, the law of vibration, and the law of vibration is whatever we think about starts creating things physiologically, and then they have proven energetically for 9 meters out. That literally whatever we're thinking about, we feel it in, whether we feel sad, depressed, tired, overwhelmed, whatever, or happy or whatever we're feeling creates that feeling in our body, or that feeling in our body, and then it goes out into a magnetic field for 9 meters, and they can measure this scientifically now. And that magnetic goes out there and it attracts everything like it back to you. So whatever you're believing and thinking about your life, you're attracting people who are going to agree with you. Life sucks, there's not enough time, there's not enough money, it's saturated, men are bad, whatever it is, you're going to attract anything that's vibrating with you out there. And then you're going to think you're right, because everybody around you agrees with you, but you don't realize those are the people you attracted. That if you had been working on changing your iceberg, then all of a sudden those sorts of people are going to dissipate because you don't vibrate, you're not magnetizing to each other anymore. And you're going to feel lonely for maybe a minute or two. And then all of a sudden people who are on this new vibration that you are now choosing because you left here today and decided to be aware and intentional, to do some exercises and start making some changes and start making the leaps. Because the sooner you do these things, the more time you put into them daily and hourly, the faster, in 4 months, your life could be looking completely different. But then you'd have to do it Becca Bulldog style, right? And say, I'm going to be telling my subconscious what our new program is. I'm going to be writing in my new program. There is enough. There's always enough. There will always be enough. I am enough. I've always been enough. I will always be enough. I am happy. I'm joyful. Life is easy. Things that I want are coming to me. The minute that we think any thought, and that attraction goes out, the universe starts immediately gathering the people, the resources, the accidents, the opportunities, whatever that matches it, and it starts to come to us. So if you start doing the work a little bit like we're talking about, immediately, the minute you go home and you spend 3 minutes or 30 minutes before you go to bed or when you wake up in the morning, just visualizing what your life is like as if it already was. Because you don't have to get up right now this morning and go work for anybody else. Because you work for yourself. And oh wait, did the Keurig timer just go off and my cafe is waiting for me? Oh, and today's the day the housekeeper comes. Oh, I have a massage. And oh, I'm going to go meet with Melissa and other like-minded people, and we are going to have the best fun because we're all positive people and we're making things happen. And oh, I just feel so good. And you know, you start to like everything that you can, fantasize every detail, every feeling, until all of a sudden your story that you're telling yourself about how your life is, the next thing, when I really started to do this, like all of a sudden I'll be like, oh, I'm smiling a little bit. Sometimes the tears will come out because I feel so grateful that this is my life. So fantasizing and saying, and you have to fantasize to a point with your visualization, because they always say dream big, but they don't tell you how. Or they say put it on a dream board, yeah, and try to feel it, imagine it. Well, I'm telling you, it's not, you've got to fantasize what that is like for you, right? Every detail of what your life would be like the moment it's true. But there is a scripture that says, call things into existence as if they already are now. So that's why your speaking must be, I have. And it's really crazy because you're thinking, yeah, I have a private plane, which makes it so nice because we travel all the time, and that way I can get to this wedding and this person's wedding, and nobody feelings get hurt.
And bring the dog.
And bring the dog because I have the jet to be able to do that, right? And so whatever it is, that's what you've got to do. And you do it so that your magnetic field is constantly going out for what you want. Because the minute you go, I don't think this is going to work. That was dumb. I think we're going to spend 4 hours on a Saturday thinking this was going to work and whatever. Then all of a sudden, all the things that were coming to you to make this new dream of yours the reality, the team members, the finances, the whatever, they go, oh, they changed their mind, and they immediately dissipate. They just go, oh, they changed their mind, I don't believe anymore. And so they go back to the people who are calling them with their energy, who decided it was worth doing this work. So when people say, I used to not share dreaming about that stuff. And I have bad days. Like I can tell you right now, and because vulnerability is so important. The first, I don't know how long we've been here, but I know it didn't go the way I had hoped it would. I had other plans for you that I think you would have liked better. So I come over here and I sit down and I go, oh, I'm supposed to speak on the mastermind stage. This is a catastrophe. What were they thinking? I am not good. I don't think I can do this. I was all over the place, whatever. My husband should be speaking. Look at how good he is. He's so good. He gave them everything that they needed. Right? So on my experiences, it doesn't matter how far you get in life. What did I say?
He said he's the man.
You are. It doesn't matter how far you are in life. There is a force that maybe it's the subconscious iceberg that for the layers that we haven't in it. Maybe there's another force that finds the good force that's constantly wants to remind us that we can't do it. And I come up against that force all the time. And you would think that I shouldn't have to with everything that I've succeeded in, and I do. And I'm like pulling it together here. Oh, I am enough. I am enough. I am enough. I'm always enough. I will always be enough. I'm over here going, rewrite the script really quick that's coming out. And so it's not a bad thing that the script comes out. The problem is if we let it stay the script. The problem is if we don't implement the tools that we are here saying for you. How many of you feel like you're grasping what we're sharing with you? Tell me one takeaway you have at this moment. What do you have?
I guess a lot's going through my head right now, but I think the main thing is I do tell myself I'm enough. You know, with everything that's going on in my life, we get to, you know, my husband's cancer, the chemotherapy, working, I work 17 hours on Friday, and I have 2 little girls, so I need to tell myself I'm enough, and I can do this. So,
No, thank you. Thank you. You're beautiful. You're glowing right now. You know why? Because when we just are open and honest and aware and vulnerable, it's the most beautiful energy a person can have. So be really blessed as well.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
I just finished, I am in the middle of a course. I don't usually like courses because I think I'm pretty tough and, you know, I know everything. And I don't need a course. But I started a course about 4 months ago. And I've always believed in alternative therapies and doing inner work and that kind of stuff. But I never would buy a course online just because, I don't know why. But I bought a course. And it's a course of self-hypnosis, different to go to achieve an ultimate life. And this woman has been she's a hypnotherapist and has been the top hypnotherapist in the world and does all kinds of athletes and all of that. After 35 years, she says that there is not one psychological problem that we have that will not take care of itself if we can actually get to that point, that we believe we are enough. That we're lovable enough, we're good enough, we're worthy enough, we're smart enough, we're beautiful enough, we're tall enough, we're healthy enough, or whatever. And so what she does with all of her clients, it doesn't matter how rich they are or how famous they are, is she has them write, I am enough, on the mirrors, everywhere they're going to see the whole time. Because she says if you can tell yourself you are enough, you personally, I am enough, 300 times a day, in 90 days, you will have a totally different life. Now, I've been doing it for 4 months, and I can tell you my life is totally different than it was. So, that's one thing, and I'm glad you said that, because that brought that up, that we can all start with, right? On our phones, had my nephew do this because he was just sitting in the basement being suicidal. And just had him put it on his phone. It comes up as a whatever it's called, a reminder or whatever it is. Just I'm enough. I'm enough, I'm enough. You don't have to go any, not big, not anything, because your body and your mind cannot refute that. It's an absolute truth. You were born enough. God made you. The world didn't make you. Well, you know, I guess that's a question amongst most people. But my God made me, right? He gave me to the parents that he gave me to. It wasn't just some random thing out there. And so I got the things that I needed to get in order to grow to do the things that I'm to do. So I'm enough. I started out enough. I believed what everybody else told me. But as she said, when we first hit the earth, when we first open our first mouth, we know that we're enough. We're the only ones that matter at that time. We know we're lovable. We know people ought to be hugging us. We know, you know, because if they don't, we cry. It's the only thing we know how to do, right? And so, if we can get to that point where when somebody asks you, what do you think about yourself? You don't have to think, you just think, I'm enough. And so there's enough food, there's enough everything. You know, there's not, and that's what she said, that I am enough at this moment. I was enough, and I always will be enough. Because there ain't nobody that can take me away from me. Now, I might never be 6'5" and a professional football player that I wanted to be when I was 20. Okay? But I'm still enough, even without that. And that's a very important thing to get to. We're lovable enough. Anything you want to put in there, okay? You're enough.
So we gave you 2 things already for sure that you can do when you go home. Who can tell me what they are?
Right on your mirror, I'm enough for all over the place.
Yeah, if you know, like I took a notebook and I didn't finish it for 90 days. I'm going to recommit to that. But I just figured out how many pages that I needed to write every day. I am enough. Even if you're watching a Netflix thing while you're watching, you can be writing, I'm enough 300 times. And because I've done some other practices like that, and I found now, because I used to have horrible, horrible anxiety, even and worry and panic attacks, even up until just this last year. And July 3rd, I called it my Independence Day. I thought, we practiced these principles, they got us so far, we got lazy, we went to Hawaii for 3 years, we enjoyed ourselves for a while, and then we stopped doing the things that were really progressive for us, and then a lot of stuff created itself. And I have a degenerative joint disease. I actually used to be 1.5 inches taller, and my back is naturally broken and fused together, and so I've been on pain pills for like 15 years, right? I had my back surgery in 15, and they really affected me, really, really not well. And finally, July 3rd, Marissa Pierce, I was just saying, I know I'm being called to go out and get off the beach and do more, but I can't do it in physical and mental shape I'm in, so what do I need to do? And that's when, for the first time, I always have YouTube on, Marissa Pierce, write her name down, Marissa Pierce. The first thing we saw from her, it was your thoughts will heal you or kill you. And I know that every day if I say, this is what I'm willing to do, what's my next step? I'm willing to be successful, I'm willing to be used by you, I'm willing to make a difference in people's lives, whatever I'm willing to do, what do I need to do? Then every resource, everything starts to come. And that Marissa Pierce, and we're like, we've done this work, we've taught this work. We had a Center for Health and Well-Being. We were both rapid eye therapists and did emotional trauma and stress relief and helped people with PTSD and stuff. And these were cognitive skills that we taught. And we're like, we never heard of her, and she's been around forever. So Marissa and P-E-E-R-S, and watch some of her YouTube videos because it will help you. What you want to do is build on these things that we're talking to you. And she's definitely worth investing in her stuff because she can help you change your mindset. But so do the 300 I'm enough, and the best place to do that is to write it down on a tablet and make sure that, and have it by your desk. Have it wherever so that you can make sure at the end of the day you've got that on it. Because 4 months from now, don't you want to be completely somewhere different?
Yes.
We're listening to a guy this morning, and he was in the 80s, And he was in journalism. At that time, if you followed anybody that did extreme sports, it was just a quick, easy way to become a top person in journalism. So he lied and said that he could ski and he could surf and he could do all those things. So they sent him out there. And as a liar, when you're out there, he said he broke everything. You know, because he's out there trying to pretend like he can keep up with these guys doing these extreme stuff, just following them around. You know what I mean? And he said every time when he experienced was he would break something and he'd go back to the hospital and he'd be gone for, you know, at least 4 months. And then every time he came back, these people who are constantly leaping every day, pushing themselves in their world of limitations, had made quantum leaps that weren't even thought possible, like the guy who broke the first 4-minute mile. So 4 months can literally change your life if you leave here today and you decide to do some of these things. So one of them would be, make sure that you are rewriting your script so that you know that after you've done this, pretty soon you'll just find yourself, when your mind feels blank, it'll just be saying, I'm enough, I'm enough. The minute you have a conflict at work or with someone, a child, a spouse, your mother-in-law, whatever it is, or the guy that's being a jerk in traffic, whatever, when you normally would go into this negativity mode of anger, you'll just feel, okay, I'm safe, I'm enough. I'm safe enough, because you will have said, this is how I show up in the world. This is how I choose to show up in the world. And then that vibration that goes out, if you're enough, then you'll always have enough. Everything that you need will come to you because it will match that vibration. So that's a simple thing that you can do. But statistics show that you guys won't do this. And then 4 months from now, you won't be where you could be. What would it take you to do something that simple? Because once you start to believe things, you vibrate differently, and things change. Second of all, we talked about the power of fantasizing. Just 3 minutes in the morning, 3 minutes at night. Because when you feel that, and just get to the point that you're such a good fantasizer, not just a dreamer, fantasizing takes it to a whole new level, right? That you do that. So anything that you can do to take that magnetic field that's already manifesting for you, and make it manifest differently. And do what I did with God that first 30 days. Well, I think this is stupid. I don't think this is the dumbest idea. You know I don't like sin. It makes me sick. I already proved that I would rather be home right now in my PJs by myself. And yet, I did the work, and then the work changed. Now, crab alchemy. What the heck is crab alchemy? Well, alchemy is when you take something of little or no value, and you transform it as if by magic or some process into something of high value. And crap is also fertilizer, right? If you look at it, it grows things, right? And the moment it first comes out, it's really hot, and if you put it on something, it's going to burn you. So when we go through a traumatic trial in our life, the crap is really hot in the beginning, and it just doesn't seem like there's going to be any way to deal with the heat that's coming from it. But over time, everything gets better with time. If you're practicing these things, then it will come into fertilizer and you will have enjoyed the journey as much as possible, and then you will grow. So crab alchemy is taking everything that's happened to you that has seemed like it was stinky and horrible and shameful and embarrassing and unjust and ugly and unfair, and getting the mindset that it's fertilizer for you to evolve and it's necessary, and then start looking for the gifts in it. So an exercise I'm going to give you to go home and do is to write 3 columns. The first one is to write down all the crappy things that you have really been hurt and angry or ashamed about. And then do a column that goes, this is the loss because of that. And let me tell you, I had a pretty long list with my life. The loss. What is the loss that I feel that I've experienced that makes me angry or bitter or subconsciously holding me back? What is my loss from the result of whatever's happened to you in your story? Because the Creator's fair. He gave you lots of fertilizer, just no one told you that's what it was supposed to be. So you write down this. And then I want you to write down a column of the gains. Actually, you need 4 columns. Okay, then write down the column of the actual gains. If you stop to look at where you are in your life and what you have based as a result of what went wrong. And then now that you're in a new place of awareness, of understanding that alchemy, crap alchemy, is turning something that you thought was horrible and wrong and unjust and unfair and crippled you and shamed you and embarrassed you and made you less than, was actually the thing that when you allow it to be transmuted and transformed, turns you into a magical, powerful, priceless person that no one else can be. And then you find your personal gold. Then you have peace, influence, and prosperity. So did I get all 4 columns? No, 4. So again, what is you still potentially can gain? Now that you have this new awareness of craft alchemy, what could you possibly gain? And here's the really cool part. Once you start opening your awareness to this and invite these questions, because we're finite, so we don't even know what's still possible for out there, what still all the possibilities are, we're going to write down with our finite understanding. And then we're going to watch, because we opened that door. We opened up our minds to what was really happening in our lives and why and what's possible. What incredible things are going to add to that potential gain. And then keep this, because you want to come back and keep adding to this column as you evolve into the process. Okay, any thoughts or questions? You all just feel like you live in water hose.
I love this. I absolutely love, I think it's so important in all areas of your life, you know, to deal, because it is the foundation. I mean, once you deal with this and the mindset, it is going to completely transform your life, which in turn is going to transfer over to Sensi. So I'm eating this up. I absolutely love this. I can vouch for the I am enough. Because earlier in the year, that was something that I really struggled with, was feeling like I wasn't enough. And as you know, I have been going through my journey, watching stuff like this. And I remember one time being in a certain place that wasn't very well. And out of nowhere, you text me saying you are more than enough. And I was literally like just battling that thought. And it's something that I have been working on, you know, this past year. Like, I am enough. I am enough. And I think it was pretty amazing when you wrote I am. Earlier this year, I would have said, my thought would have been, I am not enough. But today, the thought was, I am enough. But it has taken me a year of this. And Dr. Joe Espanzara, I love him. I'll just say this real quick to add to this, because I'm like, oh my God, this is like exactly what I've been watching on Emotions 2.0. It's exactly what they're teaching on. If you want to go home and like let it soak in, I think it's on Netflix or Amazon Prime or YouTube.
What?
I don't know. The Emotions 2.0. Have you seen that?
I haven't.
Okay.
I watched some.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
it has completely, it's literally this. Like, I was like, oh my God, I'm like, they had to watch Emotions 2.0. It's very dense. I've literally had to watch it like for a couple of weeks over and over, like with a pen and paper. It's so amazing. I wanted to pay to get it transcribed. Like, that's how incredible it is. And he's a neuropsychologist or, you know, something like that. But it's everything that you guys are teaching. Everything that you guys are teaching.
Because it's the way the universe was
Yeah.
set up, and we just no one gave us these rules. They gave us their dysfunctional, messed up, itty bitty committee rules.
Yeah.
And we're just fortunate that we live in a time where, well, it's been out there for decades and decades and decades.
It has been out there for decades and decades and decades. The great part about it now is that science can actually
Yeah.
prove it.
Yeah.
They can put these monitors on you and figure out what part of the brain is getting stimulated by what word you're saying. Okay? What they've determined is the statement I am is the strongest statement that exists in any language.
Amen.
When you say I am, whether you say I am smart or I am stupid, it is you talking to you.
That is true.
It's not coming from anybody else. That is the strongest statement that can be made to anybody, is when you start using that I am. So anytime you do any kind of figure out a way, you know, I am successful, instead of just I want to be successful. You say I want to be successful, your subconscious puts that in as someday. And someday never comes. Okay?
Yeah.
I am successful. I am because it is right now. It is the present. There's no past. There is no future. The only time we have is right now. And I am is right in it.
Do you guys want to write down the most powerful words in the universe that can be spoken?
Yes.
They're the words you speak to yourself. And you want to choose them. And how many of you believe in the commandment, do not take the Lord's name in vain? And yet we do it every day. How do we do it? Because he says, my name is I am. And everything that you speak that is less than godly, like I am stupid, like do you think he said, do you think he would take ownership of creating stupid, not enough kids? No, so we don't realize that we are taking our divine DNA, our divine divinity, and taking this language that he gave us, because he did everything by the power of the word, right? So that's a really good, that was when that came across my brain, I was like, oh, I would not want to take the Lord's in vain. That was really powerful. To only use that reverently and respectfully. So I am.
And when you catch yourself, because you will. We just we've been doing this for 25 years. And still, I'll pull in front of somebody and say, man, you are messed up. What did you just do? Kind of like blocked everything that you were already putting out there good, right? So, because it goes out there for 9 feet, we can recall it really fast, right? So what we do is we just cancel that, and I'm really smart. I made a mistake. Now you can make mistakes. Mistakes are okay. Okay? Mistakes don't mean you messed up. Mistakes don't mean you're stupid. Mistakes don't mean you're worthless. Mistakes don't mean, you made a mistake and you change it. So we start catching these I can'ts and these, because get rid of I can't out of your whole vocabulary. Because you can. There is nothing you can't, I can't be Muhammad Ali. Okay, there are some things. I mean, there is just really not, if it's can be done, we can do it. Okay, not the only good, my dad was a great guy, but he taught me one thing as far as business goes. When I was in college, the second time, had 2 kids and was married, and I wanted to we had been building houses, and I'd built houses before, but I wanted to start flipping some houses to have some kind of income. And he said,
That must have been your first wife?
yeah, with my first wife. It was back in the 80s, 10 years before I met him. And he said, is there anybody else doing it? I said, yeah. And he said, are they making money at it? And I said, yeah. And he said, then you can do it. Now, if there's nobody else in the world doing it, and there's nobody else in the world making money at it, there might be something you might want to look at, right? You might want to choose something else. But in this world we live in today, there is somebody doing everything. And so, especially in our world, the Sensi world, there is literally, and I've been in business a long time, and a lot of businesses before I met her and after I met her, or with her, there is not a business better than Sensi. There's not. There's not a company that's stronger. There's not a product that's better. There's not, what else would you look for in it if you were going to start a business? It costs $99, and you don't have any of the business headaches. Do you know how much trouble it is to have an HR program? We have a brick and mortar business. It makes us money, and there's somebody that runs it. I don't want to do that the rest of my life. We just went to a business conference with all these, what they're not calling, they don't call them entrepreneurs anymore. They call them singlepreneurs, solopreneurs. Because they're doctors, lawyers, accountants. Because they're high paid, but the minute they're out of the picture, their business is dead.
And once they close the door, their business is dead. But while we're sleeping, if you have a team, you're still making money.
I have a really good friend that went to school, became a doctor, then specializes in ophthalmology. Spent the last 15 years building a business. Went into the doctor and they found out he had a lump the size of a baseball in his head. They cut it out. He can't even look in an eye. Big house, big bills, business, no way to fund it. So, you have a chance with Scentsy. The number one product in Scentsy, as far as we've always been concerned, is the opportunity. The opportunity for you to do something great with your life. Not just mediocre. You want to be mediocre? That's fine. But it is a chance to be great. To do something great, to feel good about yourself. You might never make $100,000 a month. You may never make $10,000 a month. But if you make as much as you do somewhere else, and you enjoy doing it, and you enjoy working with the people, and you're building a business, and the business keeps going, if you, for some reason, have something in your life that comes up and needs some of your energy, that it doesn't completely die, then this is the place to be. Great product, great company, freedom, and except for working with people, it's headache free. And you got to work with people everywhere. It doesn't matter where you go. You're going to work with the public. It doesn't matter what company you work for, they're going to run out of crap. It doesn't matter what, you work at Walmart. I've been to Walmart before. They were out of something I really needed and I really wanted. I still went back. That's just business. Those things are going to happen. People are going to quit. It doesn't matter what business you're in, people quit. That's why they have HR programs. In any business, especially network marketing, but in most businesses, everybody leaves eventually. Most people anymore change careers, not just companies. They change careers every 3 to 5 years. So, why should we be any different? It's just that we have a choice. We can be a salesman or a saleswoman. We can be a coach. We can be a trainer. We can be a recruiter. Whatever fits your fancy.
We get to do all of that in Scentsy.
Yeah, you can be a psychologist. You can be, you get to do it all.
So here's the thing. We hope that you found out, not only are we giving you permission to quit playing small, but we have identified why, or at least giving you the tools to identify why you have been playing small and why you've been believing in limitations. We've given you exercises and things that you can go and do and move forward. We've told you to honor whoever created you by being your own version of Oprah or Martin Luther King. Only it will be Tanasia or Kimberly or Julius, right? That go, oh, Julius changed the world. So you have to be able to start walking out, learning to have a crap alchemist mindset, learning to realize that everything's just fertilizer waiting for you to discover it. Because there's a story that I love about two boys that it was their birthday, and they were twins. And their parents were so excited to take them one at a time to the room that held their gift. And so they take the first boy and they take him, they open the door, and right? So they bring the next boy over and they open the door for him. And he doesn't miss a beat. He runs in and he's excited and he's digging through the crowd. And his parents are like, what are you doing, son? And they're like, well, with all of this manure, there's bound to be a pony in here somewhere. And you've been taught to be a victim. That's what most people are taught. And to be anything else would be whatever, fill in the blank. But the truth is, you aren't supposed to play small. That there is always a pony. And there's always a pony. Each pile will bring a new pony. And there's an evolution that will come with that. Because right now, you just got to walk this walk. But if you walk the walk and you do the work, then you can sit here like we are, with the stories, with the authenticity, with the results, and with the conviction to change lives. Because until you quit playing small and step into your power of influence and impact, there are thousands of people who can't step into their purpose because you haven't been willing to step into yours. When you literally liberate yourself, then you can go out there and liberate the masses. Mm-hmm. The fact that you're here says you're on the path, that you want it, because you made the sacrifice that so many of your other team members didn't make. And so you got the tools. And when you start to say, I am this beautiful thing, and you hear, no, I'm not, no, you're not, because it will happen. When you go through these stages, you'll get that. You'll get an incongruency. You like literally feel it disease. Have you ever said that, I'm wealthy? You've probably been to things where they said, say you're wealthy, I'm wealthy, and then you're supposed to magically be wealthy, and then your mind's going, no, you are so not. This is so ridiculous. What you say to yourself is it's possible. If you say it's possible, your spirit who knows, your creator who knows it's possible, will quiet that voice. So lots of times you're just like, it's possible. And when you make a mistake and you're like, dang, I didn't want to truck that, I should be better, I'm such a loser, you beat yourself up for not doing it right until you learn to do it, then you just go, wait a minute, I forgive myself, I'm willing to choose again, I'm starting over. One of my favorite powerful statements that I also say to myself is, I treat myself with loving kindness and infinite patience. And you know what? When I do that, and I say that to myself, I now, because you can only project out what's in here, once that became congruent for me, authentic for me, now I have so much more patience for everybody in my life I didn't have. And how many times do you say, give me patience? Mm-hmm. You can't give to someone what you don't give yourself. So just this affirmation of, I treat myself with loving kindness and infinite patience will change your life. Because what? Words change your life. Anybody else out there even say anything because you wonder how long we'll talk if you say anything? How about just an aha moment that you've had? Anybody want to share an aha moment? Like something that really was gold for you today?
Me and my husband, we talk about this a lot. I'm a cheerleader, not so much. So we talk about the creative power of saying what you want and praying the solution, not the problem. And how I learned in therapy that you have to stop your thought, mid-thought, and say, hey, okay, and turn it around like you're talking about and turn it into a positive. I have a bad habit, or I've had a bad habit of saying, I'm so stupid. And he catches me on that. Like when I make a small error, he's like, no, you're not stupid. And he's starting to help me turn my thought around mid-thought. And all this, I will make him watch this too. All of this kind of reconfirms what we've been telling each other. And our 1 year is tomorrow. Yeah, yay. So I will make him watch it tomorrow. And so it's kind of like a good affirmation for me. And when he watches this, I know he'll make the connection for him too. He's like, oh, you've been telling me that. See, I've been telling you that. So it like reinforces what we've been trying to do with each other, as well as the business, because we talk about the business a lot. He's my partner in this as well. So I know this is like my next step. Like this is going to take me that next step that we've been wondering, well, how can we do this? How can we, go up more and be better at this? And it's more realistic now than what it has been the last couple months.
All right, so closing, everybody stand. How many of you guys are a fan of, I'm going to spread my wings and fly, that statement, right? So, if you want to take a thought and anchor it into your body as your new thing, Okay, let's literally spread it out. Okay. Oh, I love that. She's like, that's a big one. Okay, now close your eyes for a minute. Take a deep breath. I'm sure I'm closing this poem I recently wrote. Can you feel that? Can you sense that? The power of my presence. Because I am no ordinary soul. Oh no, I am extraordinary. And wait, can you sense that? Place your hand on your heart. Can you feel that? The power of your presence, because there is nothing ordinary about you. You are extraordinary too. Unlock the guard on your heart, for it holds the key to everything you want and were created to be. Because when you get out of your mind and relax and unwind, when you let go and step into flow, there is no place you can't go. Listen to your heart, and the clouds of doubt and confusion will part. Sit in soul-stirring silence. Make peace with the dark and inner violence. Your assignment is to get in alignment, to embrace with grace the power that can only come from letting go of fear and living from here, your heart. You guys are extraordinary. Thank you for being extraordinary enough and coming here today. We love you, and we can't wait to see what you do with your next 4 months.
So it's really hard to get someone who has everything. And
Yeah, because she has me.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm just there like that. I'm an actor.
And obviously we don't want you to have to carry your weight stuff, you know, if you're traveling and whatnot. So I think we are kind of like your Orlando Latino team, right? So we have a little Latino starter pack for you. And there's a bunch of like little Puerto Rican Hispanic goodies that you can only find in Orlando.
Oh, how fun
And you
is
can't get
that?
those in Utah. And we also wanted to treat you guys to dinner and a movie, so there's a little gift card in there for you.
Oh, but you know what? I believe to receive it.
So that's a little something for you. And then also, we wanted to thank, you can give to Major Big Round. It's a beautiful home for us to have this event here to welcome, Becca and Terry. Your home is a perfect space for this. So it's a little something